it is quite clear that there is some sort of reckoning happening. The corruption in all industries is being exposed, whether it's Hollywood and Drea De Matteo, or the music industry with Maya and MIA, or the quite obvious political establishment corruption in somebody like Caitlin Collins, who sells her soul for money to CNN. What is up? My name is Eric. This channel is called Report and Opine. I am back. This, of course, is the epicenter for all of your current and captivating coastal elite chaos. So please hit that subscribe button, like the video, ring the notification bell, leave a comment or two, share this with a friend. Let's go. So much to talk about. I got like a million tabs open, a dozen windows, of course, some analog notes as well, because I do like to keep it old school. There's this weirdo Ukrainian slush fund money laundering scheme bill or whatever. There is Alejandro Mayorkas. There's this New York congressional representative who has taken over for ousted Republican George Santos. There's Sonny Hostin. I am obsessively trying to keep track of it all. There is also Big Fat Fani Willis, which I do want to get to a little bit later. But first, here is a clip from Megyn Kelly speaking with actress Drea De Matteo, who is most known for playing Adriana in The Sopranos. Shout out to Megyn. She lives in reality. I think she was actually sort of made hugely famous by lobbing the question at Donald Trump that allowed him to say,
Your Twitter account
only Rosie O'Donnell.
But anyways, now Drea De Matteo, I think, is promoting a new clothing line or something. But in this clip, they talk specifically about how she sort of came out of the conservative closet.
All of the conservatives out there in the last 3 years, it was the only safe place to go and find some semblance of truth. For me, I felt more.
And just before we really get going here, this is exactly what's happening, right? So this is how far off the plot the mainstream and the weirdo establishment leftist hacks have gone, is that this woman, who is a Hollywood vet, is like, what in the world is going on here? And she found a safe space with the conservatives.
Aligned with a lot of the things they were talking about. However, there are some social issues that I would still stick to that were my old school issues, but never condemning someone else for having a different opinion about something. Mm-hmm. And that's something that I couldn't understand that was happening during the Trump administration. And then it got worse, in my opinion, in the Biden administration. I think I really do think that the left is way more just angry. And this is supposed to be the hippies and the people that really do care about equality and inclusivity. And then all of a sudden, they are the ones shutting everything down, shutting everyone out, condemning freedom of speech, condemning everything. So yeah, when you mention
Exactly. And as corny as it sounds, this is a crystal clear case of the left left me. I didn't leave the left.
Michael, he was condemning some stuff on his Instagram feed that I noticed, and I remarked it.
Okay, and it's going to get deep. They're going to go deep into, some taboo topics, or maybe it's okay to talk about now. I really don't know. But she's talking about Michael Imperioli, who, of course, played Christopher on The Sopranos, who has gone off the deep end, along with, I think, the guy who played Silvio Dante, who were just completely out of touch, rabid leftists on social media. And she's like, what is going on?
I thought that was irresponsible. I never took a stand publicly about anything that I was doing until I still don't. The more I learn about what's happening, the less I feel like I know. And I rely on people like you who do this for a living to really bring it to the people. I would never be a spokesperson for a drug. I don't think it's. I just don't. I think it's irresponsible.
Yeah, I agree. This is my.
And I think to add a little bit of context here, as they say, she was blackballed from acting back during Rona hysteria because she didn't want to get the forced pharmaceutical, and then she, I believe, transitioned to OnlyFans, which whatever. I mean, it's like a fully grown 50-plus-year-old woman doing OnlyFans, but that's not the point. That's how bad it was. Like, she was in Hollywood. They told her, you got to get this if you want to get a job. She said no, and then did OnlyFans. And typically, I'm not on board with the OnlyFans stuff, but it kind of makes sense in this case. But that's not really what this clip is about.
One of my problems with Travis Kelce is he's out there pushing the Pfizer vaccine. Meanwhile, these 17, 18-year-old boys who look up to him have no idea, probably because the media's blacked it out for the most part, that you take the Pfizer vaccine or the Moderna vaccine and the boosters, you are severely increasing your risks, in particular for myocarditis, something they tried to hide from us. So I didn't see that on Travis Kelce's commercial.
No, but you just see $20 million.
Right?
And she just called out Travis Kelce right there, right? So he doesn't know. And I've said this before a long time ago, or maybe, okay, not that long ago, but Travis Kelce, doing these ad spots for the pharmaceuticals. Oh, I can get 2 at one time. Of course, this man he's literally a Super Bowl champion. He's in perfect health, and he's talking about, I can get 2 at one time, and it's all about the money. Now, back in 2021, when most people were still scared of this, couldn't be me, but that's beside the point. When everybody was still scared of this, you could have went out there and said, oh, you should get this, it's going to help you. Of course, we jumped from, here's a free donut, here's a free cheeseburger, to you can't go to work, and there was really no in between. There was never a point where they said, hey, we came up with this, we think it's helpful, if you want to get it, it's on the table. That never happened. Maybe it did, and I missed it. But now, when Travis Kelce in 2023 and 2024 is promoting this stuff, it is very clearly all about money, because we know some of the side effects. We know some of this. We know that it was largely unnecessary, but that's a different point. We know what's really going on. You have a lot more knowledge, and he just took the big bag of money, and that's what Drea has just called him out on.
They own him now. I don't know. I mean, I've heard. Is that new that he's that they're
no,
or this was back then?
No, he did it within the past year. It was the story this season.
So they're still trying to push that thing.
All right, skipping ahead just a little bit here, they're going to talk about her voting habits, I suppose.
Oh, the rock star vote right now. If you're going to go off to the other, if you're a liberal and you're going to bend, you're going to still. I don't know if you're even going to go for Trump. You might just not vote at all. I never voted in my entire life until I voted for Biden.
Wow.
And this is what happens, right? Okay, so she's embarrassed to even admit. She's laughing about it. She's like, oh, I voted for Biden, and she wishes she could take it back, I'm sure. But what happened here, and she is a perfect example of this, is that they overplayed the hand. When Rona came around, they got too greedy. We all would have been okay with a little bit of money laundering, skimming off the top. But they got way too greedy, and people like Drea, who were not involved, people like me, loads of people who were not involved are now saying, like, what the hell is going on?
Wow. In 12? I mean, not 12, 20 and 20?
Voted. And I didn't do any, I got swept up in the emotion of it all.
This is what we need. This is exactly what we need. She's embarrassed to say that she voted for Joe Biden. She's saying she didn't do her research, and it's all happening now. You know what? Better late than pregnant.
Which is not like me at all, because I never voted in my life. My daughter at that time, I guess, was like, you're just going to have to pick the lesser of two evils. And in my mind, I believe Trump was, and I'm a New Yorker, so I always loved Trump. Under the radar, always loved him. Mm-hmm. I love how crass he is. I just didn't think he had the voice to unify people if the world was really on fire.
And that's what the media did. The media did all of that. That was their goal, was to burn everything up and tell you that Orange Man Bad is a racist. And she's admitting it. That's why we love this. And again, I mean, I love The Sopranos. I think she was actually one of the best characters. I would never subscribe to her OnlyFans, but I digress.
with this whole race issue and all the stuff that was going on at the time that I wasn't paying close enough attention to understand what was really happening. And it was all super divisive and it was all by design. And I should have known that because I knew that back in the Bush administration. But like I said, we all took a nap.
All right, skipping ahead just a little bit more here, and it is a great interview. I haven't seen the entire thing, but there's a couple clips floating around on YouTube. I'm sure you could sit and watch the entire 2-hour, Megyn Kelly show. But this is the highlights as far as I'm concerned.
Forum that Trump does not, but Trump's got this. I mean, look,
It's called Dragon Energy, Drea. Ye has it too. That's what she's trying to say here is like, she doesn't want to go full bore because she is still in Hollywood, but she gets it. She knows, I know, we all know what's happening.
Many sides of me.
Adriana would vote for Trump.
100%. Adriana will vote for Trump from the grave. From the grave.
She would. They got rid of her too soon.
Yeah. But I would love in a perfect world to see Trump and Kennedy together. I feel like Kennedy could be a great voice where Trump sometimes loses it, and then Trump is good.
And she goes to bat here real big time for RFK, which I'm not on board with. He sounds like he's gonna die. But that's not the point here. She loves RFK because RFK is big on, keeping it on the level, keeping it 100 as far as the pharmaceuticals are concerned. And she's still a Hollywood Democrat, so that seems like the perfect person, even though he sounds like he's going to die. But she knows, and she does mention here that, this is her quote unquote conservative coming out party. So she's not ready to go full bore, right? I did this a couple years ago. We all got to do it. So it's going to happen. And she's not going to say, she's not going to wear a red hat and say MAGA, MAGA 24 or whatever, but she knows what's up. And this is good. I think this is, like I said, is a picture perfect example of what's happening all over the place. People are snapping out of it, I hope.
Muscle, but I also think Kennedy's
Did you
muscle
see the report?
too.
The RFKJ is saying that the Trump team reached out to him and offered him the number 2 spot. Trump denies it, and that he rejected it, saying he's not interested.
Did you see why? Did you see what he said?
Is it because he's not anybody? Oh, because of his wife. Because of his wife.
I know.
Yeah, that she would divorce him.
Man, but I wonder, because this week is the first time I'm being outspoken about anything. So this is my big coming out party.
Oh, nice.
This is my big coming out party about all of these issues I've been.
And this is what she has to do, right? I'm pretty sure that she's making the podcast rounds to push her clothing line, her new clothing line. So think about that. It is now safe enough, and this would not have happened 4 years ago, but it is now safe enough, in fact, preferable to come out and do the conservative podcast circuit to push your clothing line, a women's clothing line, presumably. That's how far we've come. That's how strong the pendulum, I think, has swung the other way. So outside of this particular conversation, there is going to have to be an astronomical amount of cheating to make that weirdo empty suit Biden, to prop him up for a second term.
Very afraid. So I wonder if she's afraid to how do you appreciate everything that Kennedy stands for? And knowing that, Trump's anti-globalism, all of that stuff, like the stuff that you can't talk about on TV, the words you can't say, like the deep state. I mean, how do you actually tackle any of these social issues without trying to cut the head off the snake?
Well, what's interesting is they say, there's a saying, and I think it's often true, more often than it's not, show me who you love and I'll show you who you are. And that it applies to politics too. So the odds of Cheryl Hines having these vehemently opposed politics to what RFKJ, it's very slim. I think she probably agrees with him on a lot, but she can't say it. That's my guess. It's just an opinion. She can't say it because you understand this. She wants to work in Hollywood. She's on Larry David's show. He's a leftist. You have to be very careful threading that needle.
But even like an old Jewish guy like Larry David, they're filled with piss and vinegar, and they know the difference between right and wrong. And a lot of this stuff is just so wrong, but I guess a lot of people aren't digging deep enough to research what's really happening.
Absolutely. So shout out Drea De Matteo, Adriana LaServa. Shout out Megyn Kelly. It looks like they both live in reality, and she is exposing the bully the bullies of Hollywood who are forcing people to capitulate. And, they mentioned Larry David here. Of course, I'm a huge Larry David fan. Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm. But Larry David and Jerry Seinfeld, for that matter, are so out of touch. I mean, they're so rich, they don't really need to be in touch. What they could do is just keep their mouth shut, which I think Jerry does for the most part. He has slipped up on some weirdo things that have exposed him as being completely out of touch. Larry, too, right? Republicans and their guns or whatever. Bro, you don't know what you're talking about. Just keep quiet. You probably should have quit while you're ahead, because this last season of Curb hasn't been that funny. But I digress. Different story. Moving on. And sticking with the Hollywood theme a little bit, this is a post from Academics, and it doesn't mean that much, but I have to give it up to Academics or his team, whoever's running the account, because he says, even if it's a joke, Adin Ross completes his Illuminati ritual and attends Michael Rubin party. So obviously Michael Rubin, this big billionaire guy, Adin Ross, huge streamer, but even if it's a joke, even if it's in jest, this is making people think, and you love to see when Academics is posting things like this, posting things about Fani Willis, posting things about Trump. Academics himself posted a picture of him with Trump at a UFC fight, so we know where he stands, and he's too rich, he's too successful, he can't go to bat for Biden, and that's how the tables are turning, and that's why I think, we don't know now, I could eat these words, but right now, I think even Taylor Swift, as much as they want her to get on board, she can see. She's not stupid. She knows which way the wind is blowing, so they are going to have to back up a Brinks truck, which will be worth nothing to her because she's already filthy rich. Of course, she is in second place on the Billboard charts or some music charts behind Kanye West, but that too is a different point.
So my XO dogs outside.
Yeah, look, that's just him, hanging out with Kevin Hart, who may or may not be compromised. Meek Mill, same thing, even though he is sort of come out for Trump. It doesn't really matter, and there's Lil Baby, not to be confused with Da Baby, which is also fairly interesting because Da Baby was canceled and his career was over because he said something about gay people at a concert. Meanwhile, Lil Baby is wearing a mask at the White House with Kamala Harris. And there is Adin Ross and Michael Rubin himself. So again, not huge news, but it is good to see that Academics is even shining a light on these sorts of things. And here is another good one from Academics. And to be honest with you, I really can't speak highly enough about Academics. I believe he's, just kind of a self-made millionaire. He came up doing the war in Chirac and making jokes about hip-hop on YouTube. And now he's hugely famous, hugely popular, and he's not afraid to be a little bit controversial or step on some toes, as they say, him or his team, whoever's behind this account. But he shares this post from MIA that says, "My first custody battle was 2013. My child was 4. I was managed by Jay-Z, who ultimately was paid by Bronfman's." So now we've got Jay-Z being implicated twice today. We've got MIA and Maya. And look, I don't know. I'm not going to be too conspiratorial about it, but it's very clear that there's corruption happening in all these different sectors, and it's coming out. It goes on. Bronfman and her husband founded the Athol Education Group, a France-based offshoot of Ranieri's Rainbow Cultural Garden, as well as the UK branch of RCG itself. The school was closed by the authorities in 2020. On June 19th, 2019, Nixum, or whatever, that weird sex cult, founder Ranieri was found guilty of sex trafficking and racketeering. At trial, prosecution witness and Nixum defector Mark Vicente testified that Sarah Bronfman was among Ranieri's trusted group. So I don't know, this might be something to look into, but it's not looking good. And I think we also know by now that MIA, not to be confused with Maya, has been on Daily Wire and talking to Candace Owens and coming out as a Christian and all sorts of things. And you just can't have that. It goes on. "I sacrificed my career for my child. They ripped me off and copied my style and gave it to their puppets and shadow banned me on every platform. But it was worth it to save him from the madness of what you know now. Be very clear why My Thang Records or whatever was buried in 2013. So this is happening in every okay, not every, actually maybe every, but this is happening all over the place, and it's getting exposed. Shout out academics for not being a mainstream partisan hack that I'm sure they tried to get to him, but seems he's standing strong. All right, we're still in the realm of Hollywood, and this is R&B singer Maya, right? Everybody remembers her from back in the day. She still looks good. Now this video is this clip is a little bit older, but I think it speaks to the idea of the Hollywood, the music industry bullies, and the weirdo stuff that's going on behind the scenes.
I would definitely have to say those in power, that want to abuse it and get off on abusing it, definitely plot on their prey,
And she's not speaking in too much detail, but long story short, I think she claims she got blacklisted after she turned down Jay-Z. We, of course, remember her in the Jersey dress, right? This is what's happening, and I believe it, right? If this was a one-off, it would be like, oh, this woman's crazy. But time and time again, we see these people coming out and saying, Dave Chappelle, right? He, at the peak of his career, is like, what in the world is happening? Same thing with Kanye, right? And I think, to be honest with you, I think, him and Kim, I never liked that for him. It lasted way longer than I thought it did. But I think he saw what was really going on and then turned to Jesus, and we got Jesus King, all a bunch of fire albums. But again, I'm getting off the point.
You have to be willing to sacrifice anything that you think you might benefit from, a career, etc., and say no, period, and learn how to do it yourself.
How did you stay so guarded within your career?
This is what I did. I said, no, I'm good, thank you. No, thank you. Okay, so sometimes that doesn't translate as far as what you are allowed to have, what you have access to. You will be blackballed. You will be talked about. You will be shitted on. You will be rumored about. But you have to stand strong on what you don't care for. It's not that serious to me, if I have to sell my soul.
So again, this video is a little bit older, but I think it speaks to the corruption that's happening all over the place, really. And shout out Maya. This video is from a year ago. She still looks good. Drea De Matteo, a.k.a. Adriana still looks good. Megyn Kelly looks good. It's funny how all of the people living in reality are maintaining pretty well. And speaking of corruption, this is some classic political corruption. And you want to talk about backing up a Brinks truck, or you want to talk about selling your soul, selling out. This woman is exactly that. Caitlin Collins of CNN now, and she looks pretty demonic. It's hard for me to tell. I'm so deep in, and I know how slippery and slimy this woman is. But here she is talking to Elise Stefanik, and it's a long clip. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but we will play some vintage Caitlin Collins after this.
I'm just curious what it says to you about the U.S. that the Supreme Court is even hearing an argument like this about a former president and whether or not he violated the insurrectionist clause.
Well, it shows that the left and the Democrat Party and Joe Biden's campaign, they know they're going to lose at the ballot box, which is why you're seeing lawfare, you're seeing witch hunt after witch hunt, court case after court case, going after Joe Biden's top political opponent, which is Donald Trump. And today was a very bad day for Joe Biden. It was a very bad day in court for the left. It was a very bad day for the Colorado bogus court case. It was a very good day for President Trump, and it was a good day for the Constitution and the American people. The American people are going to make this decision in November, not radical bureaucrats from the state of Colorado, not radical judges or far-left prosecutors.
But even though it's Republican and independent voters who brought this lawsuit.
It's Republican and independent voters who brought this lawsuit. Okay, I guess so, but that doesn't mean they can't be weirdo establishment hack shills. What are you talking about, Caitlin? And as far as Elise Stefanik is concerned, look, I think I don't believe her to be the most MAGA stone cold conservative right-wing Republican, but she lives in reality. Having any pinch of common sense is enough to make people like Caitlin Collins here absolutely crazy. And what's worse is that she's very clearly going to bat for the establishment at this point in time, but we will see that she wasn't always this bad.
So the next thing that the Supreme Court could potentially take up is the question of Donald Trump's argument, his assertion of presidential immunity. If you trust the Supreme Court's decision on the 14th Amendment, will you accept what they decide on presidential immunity?
This woman is just completely insufferable. Clearly something happened to her. I mean, something happened to all of these people, right? It's just they came down with TDS in 2015 or whatever it was. We all remember when, Joy Orwell Reed used to have, she had this blog spot or whatever, some anti-gay, anti-LGBTQ rhetoric or something, but they memory hole that and try to make you think that these people were always this crazy, and they weren't. And that's why this is so sinister. And here is a clip of Caitlin Collins when she worked at the Daily Caller in 2016, which really isn't that long ago in the grand scheme. And not to be superficial or conspiratorial about it, but she does look a little bit better here. Clearly something happened, and when they back that Brinks truck up to your apartment, part of your soul goes with it, and it shows.
The Open Society Foundation has given over $500,000 to Black Lives Matter because they want to be able to support Black Lives Matters as it grows. They're worried, that they won't know how to grow properly, and they want to help them dismantle structural inequality. That was in one of the memos that was.
So this is her not just talking about regular, typical conservative talking points. This is her talking about conspiratorial George Soros BLM control all the way back in 2016, which again, BLM, skyrocketed in 2020, but they've been doing this for a long time. And so I guess on one hand, 2016 is a really long time ago, because now when we think about BLM, we typically think about the Summer of Love in 2020. But in overall, 2016 just isn't that long ago for her to have done this complete switcheroo. So what changed, Caitlin?
Released in the data dump.
What does that mean?
They basically want to help Black Lives Matter further their agenda. And I think it's an issue also that the Democratic Party needs to address, because so many Democrats have openly endorsed Black Lives Matter. And now that we see that this guy who is funding Hillary Clinton is also funding Black Lives Matter, that's a problem. And that's something that Americans should be aware of.
Absolutely. Thanks for bringing it to our attention.
So again, this isn't like, oh, we need to get tough on crime. This isn't, we need to lower taxes. This is George Soros BLM stuff. So did something just switch in her head and she was like, oh no, that's all racist, beep boop, I'm gonna switch? Or is it way more sinister than this? Is that what Maya's talking about? Is that what Drea De Matteo is talking about? And she clearly fell victim to it, and maybe she's enjoying it now, but she will eventually pay the price for this. And here we have an absolute classic, Charlemagne the Fraud and Bo Jiden from 2020. And as much as I can't stand that man, he actually sounded better in 2020 than he does now, which I guess makes sense 4 years past for a man in his 80s. But the point here is, this is what we get, right? So when the media has been manipulated, when, this evil force has taken over these people, we get Bo Jiden telling you that you're not black if you don't vote for him.
Long way until November. We got more questions.
You got more questions, but I tell you, if you have a problem figuring out whether you're for me or Trump, then you ain't black.
Yeah, you got more questions, but I'll tell you what, you're going to do what I say anyways. And this is obviously a classic. It should have come back to bite him, but it didn't. They somehow, he's the most popular president ever, more so than Barack Obama even. So it doesn't make sense. But what does make sense is how you get from the weirdo manipulation that Drea talks about, what happened to Caitlin Collins, what happened to Maya, when all that stuff is happening, and this guy is saying weirdo race-baiting things like, do what I say or you ain't black, and then we end up with the super mayor of Dalton, Illinois. I think we're all familiar with this woman by now. She is completely corrupt. Shout out Sean Fitzgerald from Actual Justice Warrior, who's been tracking this woman for actually quite a long time. It's finally coming back to bite her, but Biden says if you don't do what he says, then you ain't black. And she says, I can do whatever I want because I am black. She's literally screaming at presumably, a bunch of city council members who are also black about how they're not actually black because they're worried about what she's doing with all the public funds.
Because y'all got false narratives out there, and y'all should be ashamed of y'all self. Y'all black. Y'all are black.
Are there false narratives, or do they have receipts or work orders that have gone unfulfilled because she is taking trips and stunting for the gram. And then she says, y'all are black. What are you talking about, lady?
And y'all sitting up here beating and attacking on a black woman that's in...
Beating and attacking? Did anybody do that? Did anybody do that? I think if anybody were beating or attacking her, there would probably be video of it. But beating and attacking is the same as just saying, where did all the money go? That's the same thing to her. And we get here by saying things like, if you don't do what I say, then you ain't black. That's how this happens.
Coward. Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves. All the stuff that y'all did to get people to come to our community, to just diss and down our community. Shame on y'all.
No. Shame on you, lady. And I didn't go as deep down the rabbit hole as, say, actual Justice Warrior did, but anybody who thinks that this woman is completely innocent and all of her black city council members are coming down on her simply because she's black will be sadly mistaken. It's all so obvious, but there's more. Big fat Fani Willis herself, who has gone so far off the plot, she's gotten so full of herself that she was investigating Orange Man bad. She was going to take him down on RICO charges. But that has all subsided, and the entirety of the case has now been focused on her because she thought she could get away with absolutely anything simply because she's black.
A little confused. I appointed 3 special counsel, as is my right to do. Paid them all the same hourly rate. They only attacked 1.
I'm no expert, but I think that's false. And even if it was the same hourly rate, you clearly paid one of them exponentially more hours.
I hired 1 white woman, a good personal friend and great lawyer. A superstar, I tell you. I hired 1 white man, brilliant, my friend, and a great lawyer. And I hired 1 black man, another superstar, a great friend, and a great lawyer. Oh Lord, they gonna be mad when I call them out on this nonsense. First thing they say, oh, she gonna play the race card now. But no, God, isn't it them who's playing the race card?
No, it's you. And it's funny how you don't mention to the congregation here that you were also sleeping with the black guy that you hired. But this is how far it's gotten. This is the 2-tier justice system. This is the brainwashing. This is the race baiting. This is the manipulation. This is the corruption, all stemming from, I don't know where it's coming from. They got this TDS. I mean, Donald Trump just wasn't that bad, right? Everybody loved him for 20 seasons on The Apprentice. But I digress. That's a completely different story. The point here is all of this stuff that's happening is connected. And, I'm a big crazy conspiracy theorist, but it's right there. They're telling you that. And unfortunately, it looks like there's some people in this congregation who are still buying it. And I don't know what it's going to take to make you realize that it's all a complete farce, scam, joke. All right, last one. A little bit more of the results of the race baiting nonsense. Teens tossed from Boston Sephora after being accused of using makeup for blackface. So, I mean, for the last 2 or 3 years, we had a spate of smash and grab robberies. A guy just a couple days ago ripping all the display iPhones. I mean, it was clearly crackhead activities, but Kia boys, smash and grabs, bipping nonstop. And some people apparently would have you believe that when shoplifting is going crazy, they just need bread to feed their family and they shouldn't really be prosecuted, and we have to look to non-carceral solutions and you can't chase them. And Lululemon fires the people who try to stop shoplifters. But these kids, these women, are kicked out of Sephora for doing blackface with makeup.
I'm triggered.
Obviously, we could go on and on with the hypocrisies. That is the point. It's a show of force and dominance and complete control. But I thought this was a weird one, and it fell right in line with some of the race baiting that I've talked about today. All right, I think that's everything. Did I miss anything? Quite possibly. Or I certainly, most definitely did, but it doesn't matter. I'll get to it at a later date. Until then, it is quite clear that there is some sort of reckoning happening. The corruption in all industries is being exposed, whether it's Hollywood and Drea De Matteo, or the music industry with Maya and MIA, or the quite obvious political establishment corruption in somebody like Caitlin Collins, who sells her soul for money to CNN. But all that aside, I'll see you on the next one. Until then, here's a funny clip.
When I was a kid, right, my parents were like very like kind of racist and homophobic. My dad would say simple things like, if you're gay, I kill you, everybody, your gay friend, everybody, or whatever.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he would look at me, everybody gay, you gay, every die, everybody die, right?